Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to discuss the example for limits for graph sketching. A function fx is given by fx is equals to x over square root of x squared minus 9. So first what we have to do is to find the domain. So if we refer to the numerator, we have the domain negative infinity until infinity. Then for the denominator part, we have the square root. So meaning that we have x squared minus 9 greater equals to 0. Kindly factor out the situation. We have x minus 3, x plus with the 3 greater equals to 0. So we have the simplest form. So assume that it is always positive. So x greater equals to 3, x greater equals to negative 3. By using the number line, we have negative 3 and 3. Then circle towards the right, then circle towards the right. So we have positive, negative, positive. By referring to the situation, we need the positive sign. So the answer, so negative infinity until negative 3, union 3 until infinity, where the negative 3 and 3 is not included. So for this one, intersect with the odd real number. So the domain would be negative infinity until negative 3, union 3 until infinity. So that would be the domain. Continue. For the x-intercept, and also the y-intercept. In order to find the x-intercept means that when y is equals to 0. If we substitute the situation, so we notice that x is equals to 0. So we have the coordinate 0, 0. By referring to the number line, the location of 0 is over here. Then, by referring to the domain, we notice that in this part, actually the graph does not exist. Meaning that the coordinate for the x-intercept 0, 0 does not exist. So as we can see, x equals to 0, y also equals to 0. So actually, this part does not exist. So we can say no x and y intercept. Next, find the vertical and horizontal asymptote. So here we have the vertical asymptote. So x is equals to negative 3, x is equals to 3. So limit when x approaching negative 3 from the left. Limit when x approaching negative 3 from the right. For the function x over square root x squared minus 9. X over square root x squared minus 9. By referring to the number line, we have the negative 3. From the left, we have negative 3.0001. Refers to the domain, we can say when x approaching negative 3 from the right does not exist based on the domain. So here is does not exist. As for the left hand side, we have to substitute the situation. So if we substitute negative 3.0001, here will be the negative and here will be the positive. So the graph will be decreasing as x approaching negative 3 from the left. Limit when x approaching 3 from the left. Limit when x approaching 3 from the right. For the function x over square root x squared minus 9. X over square root x squared minus 9. Refers to the number line, we have 3. Based on the situation, which is the domain, for the left hand side does not exist. Then for the right hand side, 3.0001. So here we have does not exist. As x approaching 3 from the right, here will be the positive. So same goes to this part, we have positive. So the graph will be increasing as x approaching 3 from the right. Next, we need to determine the horizontal asymptote. Limit when x approaching negative infinity. X over square root of x squared minus 9. So if we substitute the situation, we will have the indeterminate form, which is the infinity over infinity. What we have to do is to factor out the situation. So refers to this part. Limit x approaching negative infinity. So if we factor out the x, bracket, we have 1 over, we have square root. Here we factor out the x squared. So we will have 1 minus 9 over x squared. Simplify the situation. Limit when x approaching negative infinity. So we have x multiplied with 1 over, we have the square root of x squared multiply with the square root 1 minus 9 over x squared. So based on the definition, square root for x squared actually is modulus of x. So we have the situation x when x greater or equals to 0, negative x when x is less than 0. So based on the number line, we have 0. As for the left hand side, we have negative x. As for the right hand side, we have x. So meaning that here we are approaching negative infinity. For this part, we have positive infinity. So based on this situation, we notice that we have the value x approaching negative infinity. So this will be the situation. So we are going to represent the situation square root for the x squared is negative x. So limit when x approaching negative infinity, we can say negative 1 over square root. We have 1 minus 9 over x squared. If we substitute the negative infinity, and we notice that we will have the situation negative 1. So that will be the horizontal asymptote as x approaching negative infinity. Next, move on with the situation. We have limit when x approaching positive infinity. So x multiply with the 1 over, we have the square root for x squared multiply with the 1 minus 9 over x squared. So for this case, we can see that x approaching positive infinity. So here will be the situation. So square root of x squared would be x. So if we simplify, limit when x approaching positive infinity. So we will have 1 over square root 1 minus 9 over x squared. So the value of y will be 1. So the horizontal asymptote would be y is equals to negative 1 and y is equals to 1. Next is the refers to the graph. So first refers to the domain. We have negative infinity until negative 3 and 3 until infinity. And we notice that we have the vertical asymptote, which is negative 3 and also the 3. So here we have x equals to negative 3, x is equals to 3. Continue. Refers to the xy intercept. For this case, there is no xy intercept. Next, refers to the behavior as x approaching negative 3 from the left. The graph will be decreasing. Does not exist as x approaching negative 3 from the right. Continue. As x approaching 3 from the left does not exist. Then we have as x approaching 3 from the right, it is increasing. Continue. As x approaching negative infinity, so we will have negative 1. So that is the horizontal asymptote. Another horizontal asymptote will be 1. So here we have y is equals to negative 1, y is equals to 1. As x approaching negative infinity, the graph will be approaching negative 1. So we have two possible above the negative 1 and below the negative 1. As x approaching positive infinity, the value of y will be approaching 1. So either above the 1 or less than 1. By referring to the calculator, if we substitute negative 50 into the function, so we will have the situation y approaching negative 1, which is less than negative 1. If we substitute x equals to 50, so meaning that x approaching positive infinity, then we will have the value greater than 1. So the graph will be something like this. So function fx is equals to x over square root for x squared minus 9. So that is the graph for this case.
If you are new here, kindly consider subscribing to this channel and share this video to your friend. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.